We're coming to the crunch point of the League One relegation dogfight, and I don't know about you, but I feel none the wiser as to who's going to go down and who's going to beat the drop. It looks, after a bit of a no-show from Port Vale against an excellent Bradford City team in the week, if they'd been competitive in that performance and created chances and just fallen short, I would have maybe thought that they've got a chance of being in this conversation. But their opponents had 33 shots in that game and 13 on target. So it looks like Port Vale pretty much cut adrift, and it's going to be very difficult for them to put together, even with games in hand, the kind of form that's required to beat the drop. So I think it's 3 relegation spots to be avoided. And I think that there are 8 teams trying to avoid them. I think Exeter City, they're winless since January. I think they're certainly in that conversation. Bit of work to do, but in a reasonably favourable position on 42 points. But it's going to take more than 50 to stay up, isn't it? Rotherham and Northampton are tied on 35 points, tied on 38. Either side of the dotted line are West Lancashire neighbours, Wigan and Blackpool. Then just above them are Leyton Orient and Doncaster Rovers on 39 and 40 respectively, with the latter sharing the same points tally as Burton Albion. So plenty of teams in the mix, but for all the wrong reasons. Who's going to beat the drop and who's going to stay up? That's what we're here to discuss on this League One podcast. So if you like what we do here on EFL Debate, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and Spotify. And if you really like to support our content and you've been a fan for a while and you like what we do and want to help us make it work even bigger and better in covering the lower leagues of English football, you can become an EFL Debate member for £3 a month. And in doing so, get my exclusive conversations weekly with Simon Libri. With all that said, let's get into the podcast for this evening. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Charlie Keegan, coming at this with skin in the game this week. Wigan Athletic, unfortunately. Wigan Athletic showing some signs of revival under Gary Caldwell, but we'll get on to Wigan a bit later specifically. But in terms of the relegation dogfight in general, it's been carnage, and we've got to this stage of the season with more questions than answers.
Carnage is the right way to say it, Gav. I think it's absolutely nuts. And I think you're probably right to draw the line at Exeter. I think Mansfield and Peterborough will be absolutely fine. Mansfield having 2 games in hand. So, yeah, there's a lot of teams still in it, and there's a lot of teams maybe starting to pick up a bit of momentum. I think that Leyton Orient win at Stevenage was huge for them, not just confidence-wise, but also points on the board. And then, you're starting to see a lot of teams really falter and really struggle at the moment. So these last 10 or 11 games are going to be huge for a lot of clubs.
Certainly will be. Well, one of those clubs is Burton Albion. Delighted to be joined by brewer David Wilson Turner on the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, David. Are you a little bit more confident about Burton staying up than perhaps you were a couple of months ago?
Yeah, I think with the position we're in at the moment, we're certainly better than we were 12 months ago. We've got 40 points so far with just 10 games to play, which slightly concerns me given that we've played the most out of everybody down at the bottom of the table. But I think we're in certainly a good position to keep ourselves in the division again this season.
Yeah, certainly are. I mean, for me, it was difficult to replace the 2 big hitters from last season in terms of Jean Daddy Budvarsson and Romain Burrell. But actually, Tyrese Shade and Jake Beasley have established a really nice understanding that seems to have been key to where you are right now.
Yeah, it's been a really big thing for us this season. They've got 20 goals between them in the league, which is remarkable for Burton. Really, we don't get that from many strike partnerships, and to see that from 2 players who, one of which really struggled at Blackpool last year and the other has not really had much Football League experience in his career so far. It's good to see that they've really hit the ground running as a partnership together and scored some crucial goals across the campaign.
What do you make of Burton, Charlie? I don't know if you've watched them play Wigan this season. What are your thoughts on the job that Gary Bowyer is doing over there?
I think he's doing a very good job, and they're a battling little team, Burton, aren't they? They never give up, and especially the home form has been fantastic. I look at your results: the 2-2 against Cardiff, the 3-0 win over Bolton, the 3-0 win over Stockport, and the 3-1 win over Huddersfield. That is a mighty impressive home form to have against, especially the top six.
Yeah.
And you've got some big victories against teams at the bottom as well. And I think you look at Exeter, Barnsley, Wimbledon, Reading, and Bradford have still got to visit the Pirelli. I think you can take a lot of confidence there that you're going to be able to pick up enough points to create safety. I think the last couple of seasons, 46 points and then 47, 20th in both of them. I do think you're on track to beat both of them points tallies. And while that doesn't necessarily say, oh, we're going to beat that last year's points tally where we stayed up, so we're going to stay safe this year, I do think there's definitely 3 or 4, maybe 5, 6 worse teams than Burton over the season. So I think Gary Bowyer deserves a lot of credit. But do you think going forward into next season, let's say you are safe, do you think Gary Bowyer is the right guy for next season, or would you even think a change might be needed to then take us even further?
Yeah, I think with Gary, he's been a crucial part of sort of getting us up that table a little bit more. We're certainly in a better position than where we were 12 months ago. And whilst we did the Great Escape last year, it's been nice that we haven't had as much concern of being in the bottom 4 as we did 12 months ago. We're very consistent in that we are very inconsistent. We get some really good results against teams at the top of the table, and then we've had some real poor results against teams down at the bottom. Yourselves, Wigan, did the double over us. We've lost at home 4-0 to Plymouth, who at the time were right down the bottom of the table. We lost 4-0 at home.
That was my fault, that result.
But we've also pulled off some real big, strong results against the likes of Rotherham and Northampton at home as well. So I think going forward, for me, Gary Bowyer is the right man. He's certainly brought a lot of togetherness within the club, and we've certainly built ourselves a squad which have multiple assets throughout the team, and it might be that we lose a couple of those in the summer, but there's an opportunity for us to rebuild and hopefully get stronger and start to pull away from that relegation conversation in future seasons.
Can I ask? Go on, Charlie.
Oh, because you've done most of this season without Charlie Webster as well, and obviously I think that when you look at the squad on paper, you always look for Charlie Webster and go, he is probably the big name, the talisman, the gem that you've got in your squad that probably will go on to make you a lot of money. But what do you think him being out? How do you think it's helped sort of like Solomon Krabali and Kegs Charkey and George Evans step up into their role? Do you think their development has actually probably improved because they've had to do a lot of the legwork that Webster would have done by himself? And I think back to the early goals where Charlie Webster would just shoot from the edge of the box and he'd score some absolute screamers. He's a battler in midfield. But do you think it's actually, I don't want to say benefited the players because he's not been there, because obviously you don't like his player being injured, but have you seen a big rise in their character and development?
Yeah, it's been a huge loss with Webster, and who's to know where we could have been without him. You know, we could have been in that conversation where Mansfield and Peterborough are a little bit further up the table and with a little bit less worry. But it really has improved the development of the likes of Solomon Krabali, like you say, 17 years old and looked a real talent every time he's entered the pitch. Kegs Charkey as well, another player who's had real consistency with us across Gary Bowyer's time at the club. We've also had Andy Cannon come in January. He's really shone, mostly off the bench, but he's starting to get more minutes from the start as well. And it's allowed for a lot more faces in that midfield to make a name for themselves and get their names out there.
Certainly has. I wanted to touch briefly on the off-field side at Burton Albion, David, because I know you had a fans forum recently, and I didn't want to hear about that because I'm a big fan of Gary Bowyer. I think he's done a brilliant job. I'm a big fan of Richard Dorman as well, sporting director. I like him a lot. But I gather that there's some challenges maybe upstairs at Burton Albion, maybe in terms of Nordic Football Group, maybe they maybe came in with quite high expectations about the timescale for how quickly things would develop, and maybe there's part of them that feel a little bit disillusioned that things haven't come together as quickly as they'd have liked. And I'm just wondering whether there's a lot for Gary and Richard to navigate over there.
Yeah, the difficulty has been that we've had to navigate our way through that very busy summer last year where we signed 23 players. We've still got a lot of those on the books, whether it be that they're out on loan or they're just sort of not getting any minutes at all within the current squad. And that has presented itself to make the transfer windows that have come since to be very difficult. We've not been able to maybe strengthen as much as we'd have liked to. But the building of assets, the likes of Romain Burrell last summer, the likes of possibly Tyrese Shade, Charlie Webster, etc., in the summer coming, will hopefully allow us to get away from those challenges that we faced. It was very public that we made quite a significant loss in the last financial year of £8 million, and that they're looking at cutting that. We've had a good cut run this year as well, which will hopefully help that as well. But it's about just laying the foundations for future seasons and getting past those challenges of the squad that was built last summer.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can do that. Do you think Burton are going to stay up, David?
I think I've got to be confident that we have. We've still got Charlie Webster to come back, and it's hopefully going to be soon. He's been on the fringes. He's been certainly training in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it'd be good to see him back on the pitch. We've also got Finn Delap, who is less spoken about. He's probably just as crucial to us at the back. He's been quite a figurehead of that back three when he was in the team at the start of the season. And again, it's another position. Excuse me. Again, it's another position that when Finn Delap came out of the team, there was Jasper Moon, Terence Van Kooten, Toby Sibic, who've all filled in that position. They've just not been as good as Finn Delap, who's probably been closest to Ryan Sweeney that we've had this season. And I think once those two come back, if we can get them in for the last 6 to 8 matches of the season even, I think we'll have enough to stay in the division.
That's going to be a big factor, isn't it? David, thank you so much for your insights and look forward to speaking again soon.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
David.
So my next guest is a Doncaster Rovers fan from Danny Green Rover from Rambling Rovers. I'm just wondering what your stance is on Doncaster's survival prospects at the moment.
Well, we just got to take every game as it comes at minute, Gab. You know, we're only a one-half team at minute, I feel. You know, we only play good for like one half in a game. For example, we played good for first 45 minutes against Plymouth last weekend until we fell asleep in injury time. And then we conceded a silly, defensive mistake goal. You know, defence just falling asleep from a simple ball over the top, and we concede from it. And then second half, we just don't turn up at all. And it was same on Tuesday night against Luton. You know, I didn't feel as though we turned up very good in first half, but then second half, we come out and played a lot better. You know, it's either we just don't get a full 90 minutes at minute with Rovers, you know, and it's like we've conceded them third most, I think, goals in league, second or third most, and we're not scoring enough either. I think we've only scored the fifth least as well in the league, which is quite concerning to say. If you don't score and you're conceding for fun, you're going to be in trouble, aren't you? Like we are, really. So
I love this little Doncaster team, you know. I think it's such a battling little team. I think they've been a great addition to the league. May not have hit the heights of sort of a Bradford or Wimbledon when they've come up, but I think there's so much individual quality. Think of like Luke Molyneux and Owen Bailey as well. I think they've been two absolute standouts. And just over the season, I think you are right. We've had games where you've started, you've got off the blocks, you've done really well. I always think back to that Wigan game where 3-0 up should have been 4-5-6. It wasn't.
That typical example. That is Charlie. Typical. You know, we were absolutely flying in that first half against your guys, and then we just fell to bits. I can remember some fans were saying it was like our Morecambe a couple of seasons ago when we were 3-0 up against Morecambe and ended up losing it 4-3 because it was just that pivotal bit at season. In recent weeks, though, results have kind of gone our way still, even though we've kind of messed up ourselves. people around us have messed up. I also find it quite interesting that whoever we take on around us, we seem to do well against. I know we drew with Wigan 3-0, but we bet Leyton Orient 3-0. We bet Burton Albion, we bet Rotherham. We're beating teams around us. We just seem to struggle against the top end, from about 12th position up against them teams. We just seem to struggle against, personally.
Let me ask you about central midfield, Danny, because it's interesting to me that Owen Bailey has been playing higher at the pitch than Robbie Gotts in recent games. Because to me, instinctively, if I think of those two players, I think Owen Bailey is a very good holding midfielder. He can do that number 8 role really well, but I actually prefer him in that sort of anchoring role because I think he's so reliable, and that's what you want from someone in that position. Whereas I think Robbie Gotts, he's 5'6", he's got bags of energy, he gets about the pitch, he's pretty sound technically. I would think of him as a number 8, and I would want maybe Bailey a bit deeper. So I'm really interested that it's actually been Gotts playing in the deeper role.
Yeah, Gotts has been a revelation. He's
wow.
probably one of the best players at season for me. Yeah, he's been amazing. He's been really good. He's been keeping George Broadbent out of team. And
yeah, because Broadbent started the season well, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I love George to bits. I think he's a really good player, but he seemed to have found this step up to League One a bit too much at times. He's a really good passer at ball, but it's kind of like he just needs to be a bit quicker at times. It's just that little bit of a step up from League Two, as you know. But with Robbie, absolutely sensational, good player. He's a battler. He runs around that pitch and just tackles everybody. He doesn't mind. It's what we need, really, to compensate with Owen. Mr. Consistent Bailey, of course, he's one of players at season so far. Scored 12 goals from midfield, plays in defence as well. I mean, that's just what we need. It makes up for lack of goals from strikers, you can say. Midfield, it's a bit of a sticky point because, like you said, we're stacked in there. It's just finding that right combination. And I think we found it in Robbie and Owen, but it's just that number 10 role, what we find a bit iffy at times. I know Elliot Lee plays there. Clifton has played there at times as well this season. But it's just finding that somebody in front of them to be fair, what's going to work.
I mean, I don't know if Grant McCann's sides are at their best with a number 10, because if I think of a Grant McCann team, I think of just bags of energy. I think Robbie Gotts, doesn't surprise me that Robbie Gotts would play well in a Grant McCann team, because I think he's quite nicely aligned with the way his teams want to play. But I think of them sort of slightly modelled on Klopp in terms of aggressive, getting after teams, energetic, and maybe it's the wider players that have a bit more freedom. I that's probably the blueprint that I would be looking at for Doncaster Rovers. And I suppose, whereas I look at somebody like Elliot Lee and I maybe think, is he a bit more of a slight technical player rather than someone that
we're playing Elliot as a striker, at beginning, but now he's dropped more into his favoured number 10 role. But we've got to think he's only just coming back from a serious injury. He can't play a full 90 yet. He's still struggling to complete a 90 minute. And it's just kind of finding that time with him. But at this time at season, we haven't got time. We need people to be fully on it. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. He's a fantastic player, Elliot. He's got that fantastic goal against Plymouth. What a finish. But we need that bit more, what can I say, a bit more bite, a bit more about us, to be fair. We're lacking.
I mean, you're no strangers to League One. You've been here 6 years over the last 10 years, and obviously had that little playoff run as well, where I thought maybe Championship were on the cards. So it's not like you're coming into League One completely blind to it. But
you said that, Charlie. But these are people who haven't really played in League One. The club's been there, but the players haven't.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. But obviously, analysing the full season, what is it that, as a supporter, what is it that you hope is the first thing mentioned in the boardroom in the summer, which is a learning experience? What do you hope that they've learned from this year to build for next year? This is just bearing in mind, if you stay in League One and if you're going into League One again next year, what do you hope the learning curves are?
that loyalty doesn't get you everywhere, because some players what have got us up from League Two, I'm sorry, but you're not quite good enough for League One, and we need to kind of like cut them off. We need to say thank you, but yeah, we need to move on. You know,
senior one of those, do you think?
Absolutely not. Senior has absolutely is. Come on, he's
Okay,
the number one. He's the number one. He's the number one left back now. He's took that shirt off Maxwell, and I loved Maxwell to bits. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, but he's been below par this season when he's at the game. It's Senior's spot all day long. He's a good player. He's out of contract in summer as well as Senior, so I'm hoping we tie him down. For a longer contract. So yeah, he's a good player. He's
Burn, maybe. I think he was a very good National League centre half, and League Two. I think he does a job. I'm not quite sure about him in League One.
He's done well for us when he's played for us as Burn. He's certainly. I didn't like the signing, to be fair with you. I thought it was scraping at bottom of barrel signing, but he's made me my words a little bit, because is that what we needed? Is that calmness and that mouth in, he's very loud.
You know what though, Danny? I think if I look at the work Jamie Sterry does in terms of getting up and down the pitch, that relationship with Molyneux that we've spoken about, I think you need a right-sided centre half that's good at sort of the more athletic side and can deal with 1v1s defensively, because that allows Sterry to play his natural game, as opposed to maybe thinking I've got Neil Burn there to sort of protect and look after.
Yeah, and to cover for Jay as well, McGrath, he's only learning his Jay. And he worked best when we played with Alowu last season.
He's been a big
and Alowu is so...
Alowu.
And Alowu is so fast and so pacey that when Jay made a mistake, he could easily cover, because he was quick enough to cover, and that's what I think we need to kind of recruit off in the summer, that pacey centre-back to partner with Jay. Someone who's got a little bit of experience as well, but who's got that bit of pace as well, just to be able to cover for Jay's mistakes, because he's going to make a mistake. He's a young lad. He's still learning. He's a good player, but he's still learning, and we've got to really understand that. So I think in summer, we've got to have quite a big shopping list. I think, obviously a keeper, because we've got 2 keepers on loan, which ain't a good thing at all. And a striker, of course, a couple of strikers, I think. So, and a centre-back.
What was I going to say? Do you think... sorry, were you going to ask a question, Charlie?
Go on, mate. No, go on, Gab.
I can do. What's your production line like, academy-wise? Is there anybody either at the club willing to step up or out on loan at the moment who we should be excited for next year?
We've got a few people out, like Bobby Faulkner. He's been in and out at first team. He's only, again, a young lad what got dropped into deep end, and then we've kind of like stripped his development back. We've kind of knocked him back a bit.
He's had a lot of loans, hasn't he, Bobby Faulkner?
Yeah. He broke into first team from school next door, believe it or not. So we actually picked him up, and he started playing first team, and he was proper out of his depth. But we could see the development of him. And then we sent him out on loan to Dundalk in Ireland, and we sent him a few others. Buxton, I think it was. I'm not too sure. I can't quite remember. But he's on loan at Harrogate at the minute, and they love him to bits at Harrogate. They think he's a really good player. So I'm hoping he develops a bit more, to push on. But Sam Stratton-Brown, midfielder, he's been knocking around Peterborough Sports.
Yeah, I did feel though, Danny, like when actually, because I did watch the fans forum quite recently, and Grant McCann was asked about the academy, and I think he was, whether I'm reading too much into this, but he was quite didn't exactly play it up in terms of the academy and players coming through. I think quietly confident might have been the word that he used, but he didn't talk it up enormously. And I think maybe the fact that he had lost an under-18s game quite heavily.
Swansea.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so
12-0, I think it was. But but to be fair, most of our most of our top youth team products are already out on loan. Sam Stratton-Brown's already out on loan. Casper Williams, Will Flint's already out on loan.
Yeah.
We had to recall him from his loan at Gateshead because he weren't getting a game, and we sent him out to National League North again.
Right.
But Sam Stratton Brown's out on loan. See, that's four youth team products. What could
Right.
do it?
So they're the ones that you think could. So the good ones you think are the ones that are out on loan.
But I won't rely on youth, not yet. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'd rather have experience, to be fair, than the youth at minute.
Danny, thanks so much for your insights, and look forward to catching up later in the season. And do you, just before we let you go, do you think Doncaster stay up?
If we win on Saturday against Blackpool and we gain that bit of a cushion and we win those around us, because we've got quite a few teams around us still left to play. We've got Vale, who I think are pretty much down, same as Rotherham and Northampton. I think it's just that battle for that last place, I think, who's going to stay out of it. We've got Northampton, we've got Vale, we've got Exeter still to play. And this record against people around us has been pretty good. So I think maybe 3 or 4 more wins, I think we'll be all right. I think it's 52 points the target I think everybody needs saying for this year.
Yes.
So yeah, I think
so you need 12 points from 11 games, which mean, look at it like that. That's that's certainly doable. Absolutely.
Yeah, 3 or 4 wins, and it might about that game in hand. What we've got is I'd rather have points on board than game in hand at the minute. But I'm gonna. You stuck me on it. I say yeah. I think we'll stay up.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Danny. Appreciate it.
Cheers for having me. Cheers.
Thanks,
See ya.
Charlie, before we bring on our next guest, Rob Walker,
Yes.
who'll be coming on in 5 minutes or so, I did want to touch on Wigan with you. What have you made of the impact Gary Caldwell's had? You obviously had those couple of home wins, didn't you? And then a recent heavy defeat to Plymouth Argyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the upturn in not only some of the performances, obviously taking that Plymouth one out, it was just a collapse of everything that had been going well. But if you take out that game, there's definitely been a vast improvement, not only in certain performances, but also in key moments in the game. You can see that the players look a little bit more confident in themselves. And I think that hopefully can carry us through to the end of the season. It's just that Plymouth knock. We've really got to be able to bounce back from that, because that was a pretty heavy defeat, to be honest. But Caldwell has admitted that he changed the starting lineup. He gambled quite a bit. Like you saw, Callum McManaman came in to start, and I just don't think it worked. And Luke Robinson made his first start in many months.
I had a look at the 11, Charlie. I was surprised that Callum McManaman still starting games in 2026.
Yeah, and I know Caldwell, he keeps talking about subs as finishers, which I understand, but it's also like, just get Joe Ungbo on the field. He's so good. Like, if you just get him on the ball and get him running, it pins them back. And I think Plymouth were able to get so much momentum in the game. So that was a bit of a worry. But we have big games coming up. Like you look at, we got Northampton and Vale away. We should hopefully try and get at least 4 points from them. Rotherham, we've got to play.
Charlie, have you got, is Baba Radiko set to come back, or is he out for the season?
He had a bit of a setback with his injury, but that was a few months ago. I think he did his hamstring when he came back in training. So I'm not too sure where he is, but I really like Baba. I've really liked him since the academy days. I think that his role doesn't always get the credit it maybe deserves, because he isn't really an adventurous box-to-box midfielder. Ireland tried to play him in that way in the under-21s, and he was destined to get forward. And Maloney tried that in his last season with us, but I really like Baba as sort of the sweeper, just get him in the midfield, sweep everything up, and give the ball to another player who can, like a Matt Smith, who can.
But I think when you're in a dogfight, that kind of player just becomes invaluable. Which is part of my thinking. So, if you can get him back to play any sort of part, I think that could be a real factor.
Which is interesting as well, because when Caldwell first came in, obviously we all think of Matt Smith as probably the best midfielder really that we've got creativity wise and vision wise. But Caldwell wasn't starting him when he first came in. It was Moxon and Weir, and I think that maybe that was a choice to start the games, because them two are a bit more of a battler than Matt Smith. And I think it was just make the midfield a bit of a horrible place to go, force the team to do something else, the opponents. And then you can bring Matt Smith on once they've sort of amended the shape to try and counter Moxon and Weir. You can get Smith on who can cut through. And I think that's where we really saw better improvements against Luton and Huddersfield recently. And it's not what we started him against Plymouth, and it just didn't really work. So there's a lot for Caldwell to think about there.
Certainly is. Interesting that Caldwell's still playing 2 up top. You've got Christian Sadie and Taylor up there. Do you think that that's going to be the intention then? Because he obviously likes attacking profiles as wing backs as well. So is the intention going to be to really press? Because that's what I think of a Gary Caldwell sort of methodology when he has players to implement it. Really aggressive attacking wing backs and two up top, putting the pressure on the opposition.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Taylor recently said as well that he always prefers playing in a two. He doesn't like playing up top by himself, so he wants a supporting role. And I think when I think about Christian Sadie, I always think the most positive way I can about him, where I like him dropping deep and holding the ball up and then releasing to the wing backs or trying to release Joe Taylor through. I think he can play a lovely ball through. We've not really seen the impact that we were hoping for, really, from Sadie up to now. I mean, at the start of the season, when you think back to the Northampton game, fantastic. Then he dropped off under low.
Can we just pause on Christian Sadie, Charlie, because I'm really interested in that. I remember watching him for Shrewsbury a few years ago, probably under Steve Cottrell, and he was that kind of persistent striker trying to get him behind, pressing forward, if you like. And at Portsmouth, John Mazzinho, I think, was the one who tried to sort of reinvent him into this number 10 creative, and I don't really think that's his natural game. And I almost wonder if trying to reinvent him, it's one thing to try and encourage a player to grow their skill set, right? But I wonder if that sort of killed certain natural instincts in his game, and actually is he better just, are you better off just letting him be that guy that hassles and harries and gets him behind?
I think he just likes the physical aspect of the game, going up against players, and he does put on a real big battle. We saw it against Luton. I thought he was fantastic in that game where him and Teden Mengi were just going at each other all game, and you could see it got him up. But I think he was a major sufferer under the latter stages of Ryan Lowe as well. I think that the two of them just did not see eye to eye. You could see that Sadie was frustrated in his own performance. The ball wasn't coming to him quite enough. He couldn't have somebody to play off. I think Taylor's given him a little bit more that he can get involved, but he really struggled against Plymouth. So I'm not too sure what the future is for Sadie in these last sort of 10, 11 games, whether he just needs to be benched. And Harrison Batoni came on against Plymouth, and I thought he put in one of his most mature performances. He got on the ball, and I likened him to a bit like a Dale Taylor from last year, where he can play striker, but if he drops back into your own half, he's going to get stuck in, he's going to win the ball, he's going to advance forward. He put in great balls for Joe Taylor, which should have been a penalty. The referee didn't give it, but it was what it is. But I think Harrison Batoni is a real gem, and he's out of contract at the end of the summer. I'm hoping, I've got my fingers crossed, we can get him signed on for longer, but I think there's no doubt going to be interest in him. But we've brought about Leo Graham's come back from Bury, and he's come straight into the first team. He's been back on the bench, so he's also a bit of a gem to watch out for. I just think that we've been so decimated with injuries, and like we've seen throughout the season, suspensions, 8 red cards is by far the lead in the league. There's been a bit of I don't even want to say it's been a disciplinary issue, because I think some of them have been really harsh red cards where I don't think they should have been. But obviously, ultimately, it is a red card and it's a suspension, whether 1 game or 2 games, and we've had to deal with that. So it's been a proper turbulent season for Wigan, and now we're up for sale. So it's even more going on. But,
oh yes, just bring us up to speed with those off-field developments.
Yeah, we found out from the Athletic. They put something out saying that we're gonna up for sale, and there was apparently there's been a 43-page investment opportunity document that's gone around to people since January. One slide did get shared by Matt Slater, which said that Mike Danson, is stated on it, Mike Danson would be happy to go down to a 20% share, handing over effectively 80% to somebody else. The stadium won't be included, but Christopher Park, our training ground, will be included. And it was phrased as an investment opportunity, but it's a majority buyout, basically. So it is a sale. And he's saying that he wouldn't sell unless it was to somebody else. The worrying thing is, and obviously we've got some major anxieties having gone through 2 really bad ownerships in the last 5 or 6 years. And this all seems to be very secret. They didn't even tell the wider board. So the most front-facing people on the board who go and speak to the fans, they go to the memory session that Barry does, and they go to the supporters behind the talk around. They knew absolutely nothing about this. Yeah. And so they found out at the same time as we did through a leak on social media. And you don't want that. And you kind of have to. Mike Danson works very silently. He's not really a public-facing guy. But in that silence, you've got to have an immense amount of trust that they're doing the right thing for the club. And unfortunately for me, that trust is gone now. Because if we're finding out through a leak on social media, what else are we not finding out? And that's the worry for me. So it just seems every other year we go through this.
I know. feels like Wigan Athletic are like a puppy that's up from a rescue centre that just desperately needs a stable home.
And look, I understand every football club in the world is up for sale. Liverpool's up for sale.
Yeah.
Manchester United's up for sale. City's up for sale. If the right price, if the right buyer comes along, I understand that, and I'm not saying that Wigan shouldn't be up for sale. It's just a bit frustrating the way it's all come about. So
I think this is a massive issue in football at the moment, that I do understand that clubs can't tell fans everything that happens, and that it is a business and there are some confidentiality agreements, but you've sort of got to be able to give fans the gist of it. I think fans are entitled that much when they're that committed to their football club. I think that they have a right to a certain amount of the information, and I think when you're completely in the dark, I think you've maybe not quite got the balance right. I wouldn't necessarily question Mike Danson's intentions, but I think that communication is definitely something that he's got to improve on.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about Sam Tickle and his form this season, Charlie. He was obviously really came to prominence with his form last season. How's he performed this year by comparison?
He's had a lot to do. There's only one goalkeeper in the league who's faced more shots on target than Tickle, and that's Bailey Peacock-Farrell. So Tickle's had a lot to do and conceded 50 goals, which is way more than we've been used to. I think, especially under Sean Maloney, we had a very solid defence, and that was always something you could kind of rely on. We were really tight at the back. Ryan Lowe then brought in this more expansive play, and we have just been getting done by the wings, and teams have been able to really get at us. And Tickle's has had a lot to do. And throughout the season, there's been really big highs where he has saved us a lot of points and he's kept us in games. He's helped us win certain games. But unfortunately, other times as well in big moments, like you think the Plymouth Argyle, the first goal that came in, it was a bit of a mess that he made of it. Boateng just got in front. He tried to catch the ball, dropped straight to Ben Peppel and they scored, and that kind of just deflates everything. So I don't blame Tickle for these sorts of goals. Like he's just a young goalkeeper. There's only one thing he can do. But yeah, it's a little worrying because I think depth-wise as well.
Moments there, Charlie.
Yeah. Well, I worry as well because he will go in the summer, and I know I can say pretty certain he will go in the summer. We've got Toby Savin on the books, and is he going to be the one to step up as number one? I'm not sure. So yeah, Tickle, I do like watching him though. When he's on it, he's on it.
Yeah, certainly is. Talk to me about the form of your sort of more seasoned League One defenders now, like Williamson and Kerr. What sort of role do you see them playing in this bid for survival?
I mean, Jason Kerr looked a really frustrated figure in the Plymouth game, and like he was going up against Caleb Watts, and he kind of went head to head with him, and he hacked down Ben Peppel a couple of times, and that was very uncharacteristic of Kerr. I'm hoping that it's just something he can bounce back from. Aimson has been vastly in and out of form all season, and I think there's been some major moments where sort of his decision making has cost us in key moments, but there's been other times which really put his body on the line. I remember the first game that Cordwell came and we played Luton, he cleared about 2 or 3 off the line and he was unbelievable. And I think every team needs a defender who really just puts the body on the line and gives everything. And is somebody, I always think about the John Terry, when he did that dive-in header and he just got in the way. Every team needs somebody like that who will just put his body on the line, and Aimson has done that. But for me, I think at the end of the season will be the right time to maybe part ways with him. Morgan Fox has come in and elevated us a little bit, but I think injuries and burnout has kind of got to him. And then we've been struggling with Luke Robinson's just come back. Leighton Chapman, who's the under-21s captain, he's stepped up. And I've actually been really impressed with him. Obviously, a young player who comes into the first team, a bit like a Harrison Batoni, they've got so much confidence and they've got nothing really to lose, so they're going to get on the ball, they're going to be adventurous and light you up. But I think Chapman has actually been a bright spark, to be honest. Our defense does fall though with the wing backs. Fraser Murray and Joe Hongbo are wing backs, the wingers. Defensive capabilities just aren't there, and that's something that we've been done time and time again with.
But that's where I would maybe come back to the Adike point, that if you've got someone who's good at spotting problems, you can maybe get away with having those attacking wing backs, but without them, you've maybe got a few more challenges.
Yeah.
Well, from one corner of West Lancashire, we'll move to another. We're delighted to be joined by Rob Walker from of the Tangerine Army, Blackpool fan. Thanks so much for joining us, Rob. 4-1 defeat in midweek at AFC Wimbledon. You were a little bit concerned after a couple of the recent results, Rob?
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, I think it's been a seasonal Blackpool season where we've had a few decent results and then not backed it up with a performance the week after and been sort of many false dawns. So, yeah, certainly after last night, massive cause of concern. I think it's just the way that it's not necessarily the results; it's how it's sort of going from a tight game, had one goal in it, and then all of a sudden we're sort of conceding 2 or 3 goals in the space of 5-10 minutes. Lincoln, we were still in the game, although we weren't playing great. We were 1-0 down, and then we concede a goal. And the next minute, the third one goes in, the fourth one goes, and it's just been a sort of a recurring theme this season that when the chips are down, this group of players just can't cope with it. And I'm not saying they throw the towel in, but it's massive question marks over sort of the fight, the character, that sort of has to happen because it's just not been good enough. And we're now in the bottom 4. We've got a massive couple of games coming up against Doncaster away on Saturday, Port Vale at home on Tuesday. We have to get something from one of those 2 games, if not both games, to stand any chance of staying up. But yeah, it's been a season to forget. It really has.
You were speaking, I think last time you came on about 3 weeks ago, Rob, you were speaking, I felt like with a quiet confidence that although, it was still true then that it has been a disappointing season to forget. I think you felt like you maybe looked at the players that you've got and felt like, you'd sort of rise into that lower mid-table bracket. Why do you think it hasn't quite panned out like that way over the last 4 or 5 games?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, I think at that time I was positive because I think the players that were out injured were coming back. Looking at our squad now, apart from maybe long-term injuries like Dale Taylor and Albion Morgan, we've pretty much got a stronger squad as we can have, really. So there's plenty of options there in terms of changing formation, changing shape. So at that point, I was sort of relatively confident that we could string a few results together. And it's such a tight League One that if you win 3 games or 2 games back to back, you shoot up the table. I don't like the formation Everett plays. I don't like this 3 at the back.
Right.
For me, 3 at the back means you're defensively sound, you're solid, and we're anything but that. I mean, we conceded 4 on Wednesday. We conceded 4 against Plymouth at home, 4 at Lincoln. We're conceding goals right, left, and centre, and from set pieces as well, which has been our Achilles heel all season, really. So that formation limits us going forward, I feel. But if you haven't got defensive solidity, then what's the point of playing 3 at the back? So for me, something has to change because if he carries on playing this formation, results just aren't going to turn. It's incredibly frustrating that the fan base can see it. Everett says he's not entwined into one system, but it is coming across that way.
Do you think Everett's hands have been tied, and maybe Steve Bruce's hands have been tied as well? Just the player rotation has been unbelievable, and a lot of it comes down to injuries. I know obviously Daniel Imray was outstanding. I loved watching Daniel Imray, and obviously got recalled, and that was a massive loss. But yeah, you see players sort of coming in, they do all right maybe for a game or 2, and then they've been out again. I think Dale Taylor did really well. I mean, set up a goal and scored a goal against Wigan when he came to us, and then obviously he goes and gets injured. And Niall Ennis, I think, started the season really well, got a red card, and that derailed him, and then he got the injury. So I do worry a bit for that. But I think home form is something that maybe Blackpool can get quite confident about. I know anybody 12th or below, you've played 7 games at home against, you've not lost any of them, and you've got quite a lot of games left against the bottom sort of 12 teams at home. Do you think Everett maybe looks at it now going, okay, the away form's not been great, but maybe we can rely on that home form where we can get 3-4 wins, or you can carry on 3-4 games without losing, and that should hopefully prop you up? Is that something that you feel like he might do, get the home crowd up?
It has to, yeah. I mean, like you said, we've got 4 home games against us. We've got Port Vale, Exeter, Burton, and Leyton Orient. So they're 4 absolutely massive games that will shape our season ultimately. So coupled with the Doncaster game on Saturday, 5 teams that are around us, we have struggled away from home. The home form has been obviously marginally better. It was frustrating against Wigan because I felt that was a game we could have, and we should have took to Wigan, but for whatever reason, Everett seemed to play safe with the formation. He played Honeyman, Brown, and Anderson in midfield 3. not much creativity there. He had a bench of Bowler, Clarkson, and Randall. So I felt that he played for a point in that game, and if anyone was going to win it, it was probably going to be Wigan. I think Joe Taylor hit the post going around the keeper. So for me, that was a massive opportunity missed. I mean, obviously Wigan got beat midweek as well, but we just didn't seem to go for it. And it's almost like the handbrakes are on, and we just have to take it off. I mean, there's been one bit of positive news today in that we've had a coaching shuffle. Tomo's come back.
Steve Thompson, yeah.
Yeah, so Tomo was Ian Holloway's assistant back in the Premier League days. He's a popular character at Blackpool. He's been doing work for local radio. Bit of a surprise move, really, because I don't know if Everett's going to be entirely happy with that, bringing somebody else in. He sort of
You think it was a club
doing.
decision? Sorry, you think it was a club decision rather than an Everett decision?
My opinion is yes. I think it is. I think I'm not saying Everett's not for it because he worked with Everett. Obviously, when he played for Holloway,
Sure.
but it doesn't look great, does it, when you're bringing somebody in? He's been out of the game for 2 years. He's 61. So for me, it's a club. I think it's panic stations, Gabe. I think it is. I think we're at that stage now where we're.
What can we do? Yeah.
We're 10 games left. We are running out of time, so something's got to change. And I don't think sacking Everett's the right decision. I think we have to stick with him now. We have to try and buy into what he's doing. Like I say, we have got players back now who can influence games. So the bench is very strong. I just don't think he knows what his best 11 is, and that's the problem. I think you've got a lot of players in different positions, but he doesn't quite know how to get them all to fit.
Yeah, I can see that's a challenge. The one thing we've spoken about some of those defensive issues, Rob, and we've spoken about some of the formational and selection-based question marks. But I think the big thing that I would say when it comes to Blackpool is I look at Fletcher and I look at Niall Ennis, and I think those two can carry a threat. Is that something that you'd agree with?
It is, but I think they need the service. I mean, Ashley Fletcher's goals have dried up lately, and he got subbed again on Wednesday night. But the lack of service is it's alarming, really. I mean, I think we had our first shot on target after 42 minutes on Wednesday, and when obviously you're trying to win a game, it's not good enough. So I have some sympathy with the strikers. I think the service recently has been, well, pretty much all season, has been sort of non-existent. I mean, the goal that Ennis scored, it was a long ball from Ollie Casey, but Ennis did all the work himself, really. He had to beat off a defender and chip it over the keeper. It was a great finish, but we've got to get balls into him. I mean, he has not a great season, but I think Josh Bowler has to start. I think Josh Bowler gives you that that creativity, that unpredictability. He can drive with the ball, so he needs to start, and he needs to show.
Would you go to a back four and then bring in maybe Josh Bowler on the right-hand side, perhaps? If I look at that 11, you could possibly drop Rule Walters to right back. You could and then maybe bring Bowler in for Coulson, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's got to go for a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. And also Tom Bloxham, who has been playing up front. He's not really a striker. He's more of a wide player. So, and you've got CJ Hamilton as well. So you've probably got 4 players who can play out wide. I mean, a lot of Blackpool fans are absolutely devastated that Scott Banks was allowed to leave and go to a divisional rival. But obviously he didn't suit the formation at the time. But we've still got wingers in the building. And for me, you've got Coulson or James Husband or Zach Ashworth who can play left back. Like you say, you've got Rule Walters who can play right back. So there's players there who can change into a 4-4-2. But for whatever reason, Everett seems to be stubborn in this 3-5-2.
Well, I'll leave you with one nugget of hope, Rob, which is that although you're right, Everett has been criticised for being very stubborn. There was one moment in his first season at Bolton Wanderers where he'd started the season playing through at the back in the first half of that campaign, and then he changed to 4-2-3-1 as a sort of temporary measure, and that was actually what won Bolton promotion, because they were much better in the second half of that campaign. So there's individual circumstances where he's been willing to be a little bit more flexible, and hopefully that this will be one of those moments.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that with Tomo coming in, I mean, Tomo played under Holloway, which was a 4-3-3, so he preferred a back four. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe that they brought him in and he is going to sort of look at that defence, because the back three, obviously, we've got Casey, we've got Horsfall, we've got Husband. There's not a lot of pace in there, so I do feel like we're almost compensating for playing a three because we haven't got that mobility in the back three. Michael Hickaway's had a toe injury all season. He can't play two games a week.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I think with a back three for the wide centre halves, it becomes more important that they've got pace because you give so much attacking freedom to the wing backs with the way that Everett plays. So I agree. I see that it's a big problem.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's frustrating to watch, and like I say, something has to change. So I'm hoping on Saturday against Doncaster, which will be a tough game for us, because I know against Luton they lost that game, but I think they were lucky in that game, weren't they? From what I read, so they'll be up for it. So it really is a cliche 6-pointer.
Absolutely, Rob. Thanks so much for your insights, and look forward to catching up later in the season.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers, Rob.
So my next guest is Matt Lax from the New York Talk podcast on Rotherham United. Good evening, Matt. Matt, thank you for your time. We've spoken about panic stations for other clubs and big decisions, and the one kind of lever that clubs can take at the moment is changing manager. Rotherham United have chosen not to do that. They've stuck with Matt Hamshaw. I suppose my opening question is, do you think that's the right call given the circumstances and where Rotherham United are?
Probably not, no. I think Rotherham United, that meme as that man that sat at a table with a cup of tea and the house is on fire and he's just saying, yeah, this is fine. That's Tony Stewart and Rotherham United at the minute. Any other season, any other club, Matt Hamshaw would be gone by now. It'd have gone after the Doncaster loss. We lost to Burton on Tuesday 1-0. Then we throw away a 1-0 lead at home to Doncaster, two of your relegation rivals. That was it. That should have been it. For every single Rotherham fan, that was the two games, really. To really get yourself out of this position. You know, if you're not going to win both games, at least win one of them or don't lose both of them and pick up 2 points. To lose both of them was just an absolute disaster, and probably both fair results as well. You know, if you come out and saying, "Oh, we battered them, but it got unlucky," you can maybe take something out of it. There was nothing to take out of either of those games. It baffles me that he's still in a job, Matt Hamshaw. I wanted it to work out. I like him, but it's not working, and we are just sleepwalking to disaster.
Yeah, I think home form, obviously it's been, 6 wins, 6 draws, 6 losses, but the away form, I think, is the worst in the division, maybe 12 losses and something that's been really difficult. But I also think that while I've not been convinced with Matt Hamshaw as a manager and some decisions, I think there are some good players in there. I know me and Gav have spoke at length about Harry Gray and obviously the importance of Sam Nombe when he's fit. I think there's good players there. I watched the Huddersfield game where it was a 1-0 loss the other day, and I think you had 2 very good chances in that first half, forced Lee Nichols into 2 big saves. I just felt there was never a real follow-up after that. And I remember a moment where Liam Kelly had the ball on the edge of the box, and I think maybe it was Harry Gray was free on the left side, and Kelly went for a pop shot and it went over, and I'm thinking, look up, look at your options. And it seemed like there was a bit of an air of desperation to just try and get something rather than keeping a calm head and trying to play it. But I also looked at the Rotherham Mansfield game. I thought you were denied a penalty in that game where Blake Tracy, the ball hit his hand. And obviously these moments for a team in a relegation fight, absolutely huge. If you went and got 3 points against Mansfield, that's another 2 points on the board, and then there's a bit more confidence to go and get out. But you've got some big games coming up, more away from home: Orient, Wigan, and Port Vale on the road. And I know that I was talking about your away form being tough. Do you think you can go there and get a minimum of, say 4 or 6 points from that?
Possibly. What Manshaw's done over the last, since the Donny game, is basically shut up shop. He's just kind of going, well, I don't want to get battered. I don't want to get beaten up. And I'm hoping that we can pick up some points and sort of sneak some wins like the Mansfield one. You know, if that penalty is given, the narrative changes a little bit. It goes from being a rubbish game where nobody's really tried to score or you've nicked a win and you've set up perfectly. And the same with Huddersfield. You know, if we get an away point, Huddersfield having set up not to try and not concede, the narrative is completely different. But we lose 1-0 without looking like scoring. It then looks pretty poor. We can't score at the minute. You know, last goal we scored was a Nombe penalty, I think it was. We're just toothless. We're completely toothless. And decision making, like you said, it's Liam Kelly, most experienced guy at the football club, is making really, really poor decisions. And he's not the only one. You know, the experienced guys are the guys that are letting us down at the minute. I have very little faith in this team. It's going to be nicking results here and there. And I think we've got better players than that. You mentioned Nombe, Harry Gray, really, really good players. Joe Powell's coming back. Defence is pretty good. We do have the players to... He's injured, sadly injured. He might be back for Saturday, But when somebody said they might be back, that means they're probably not going to be available, which is a problem. But then Dango's a great player, but he doesn't create anything. We need somebody kind of Josh Benson is what we need.
Right.
But sadly, he's constantly injured. We've got good, but I do think we've got a good enough players to try and take the initiative against Mansfield and against Donny and these other teams. You've got the players to do it. He just doesn't want to do it. He wants to set up to try and sneak results at the minute, and generally that doesn't get you out of relegation battles in my experience.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen of Rotherham, it's a case of passing the ball backwards and then lumping the ball up to Sam Nombe, who does okay with that, but I wouldn't even say Nombe's a traditional target man. I think he can do a little bit of that, but I wouldn't say it's like his mate. He's not like a Michael Smith, for instance.
Yeah.
And so to kind of make that your whole, the whole thing that you're kind of pinning your hopes on, I feel like that is underusing the skill set of the squad. Even when people like Joe Powell and Dan Gore have been in the team. But for me, it is those two. I think if you can find a way to serve Nombe and Gray, that's probably your best chance. But it's just whether, on top of having the personnel available, you can actually find a route to do that. And that, for me, is where I would probably be looking at rolling the dice. I like Matt Hamshaw. I like some of his values. I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. But I think it's getting to the stage where, push comes to shove, really.
Yeah, I think it just needs a fresh slate. I mean, Matt Hamshaw benefited from last year. When Steve Evans left, Matt Hamshaw benefited from not being Steve Evans. He just needed to come in, lift the lid off the place, tell the players that they're really, really good players. And it won four wins in 8 games, something like that. It needs a freshness. It needs the air lifting around the football club. And I think Matt Hamshaw, anybody can do that, but he doesn't seem able or willing to kind of change things. He just needs to go back to basics. He's trying to be clever. He's trying to play a 3-5-2 and then go into a 4-2-3-1 and then go into a 4-3-3 with Harry Gray on the left-hand side and this. Just stop. Just go back to basics. Use Nombe in the way that he should. Use Harry Gray. That will take the leash off Joe Powell when he's playing. Just take it back to basics. And we might not stay up, but I think we'll have a much better chance if we do that. I just feel like he's trying to be... He's stubborn. He's absolutely stubborn, really, really stubborn, with kind of nothing to back it up with. I listened to talk about Ian Evatt earlier. Ian Evatt's very stubborn, but he's got history. He's got reason to be stubborn to an extent. Matt Hamshaw's got no reason to be stubborn in his ideas realistically, and that's adding to the frustration as well. We've got no history to kind of lean on with that as well. He needs to be more flexible. He's got to be more flexible if he's going to be a successful manager, and we haven't seen that yet.
You feeling pretty apprehensive about the last 9 games then, Matt?
Yes, very much so. And I think the next 3 games are, you want to keep in a battle with 3 points off safety. You've got Bolton at home, Peterborough away, and Lincoln away. Those aren't 3 games you want to probably, and then we'll have an international break after that probably. Wow. Those aren't 3 games you want to go into. I mean, this league's crazy. I know we can pick up wins in those games, but are you saying if we pick up 3 points out of those 3 games, that's probably a good return, but that's no good when you're already 3 points off safety. It's a big week. I could see us losing all 3 of the games and the season being dead and buried. I would probably be happy with. I'd be very happy with 4 points, to be honest with you. But this week is probably going to be season defining, I think.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks so much for your insights and keep up the great work on New York Talk.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers, Matt.
Charlie, we weren't able to get hold of fans of the other teams involved, namely Leyton Orient and Northampton. So I just wanted a quick word on them before we round up. Northampton obviously made that decision to part company with Kevin Nolan. Curious to hear your reaction to that, and where does Northampton go from here?
I mean, Northampton's season has been far from what Nolan outlined at the start of the season. I was thinking back to those season aims where he said, my aim is to stay clear of the relegation zone and build this football up to be competitive. And it's just not been that at all. Shots and shots on targets, the lowest in the division. Shots against and shots on target against is some of the highest in the division. I just think it was a big summer for them. I think like losing Mitch Pinnock maybe was quite big for the football club. And I just don't think they really... they gambled on Ethan Wheatley coming in. That didn't really work out. And it's just been a bit drab, hasn't it? And I think that away form as well. I think they're averaging 0.65 points per game away from home, which adds up to about 15 points on the road from the 23 games. that's not good enough at all, and that's going to be really disappointing. I think when Nolan first came in, they were getting those wins on the board and he was banging those shoes together and he was trying to gear up the atmosphere. I felt there was something there where I thought, okay, they can go and build on this, but I've not seen it enough. And I think Tom Eaves has tried his best, but I also don't think that he was really much of the answer. And I think back to last year, I think, was it John Brady was there? And there was so much. They were just compact, and I think this Northampton thing, I don't think is just this season. I think they've really struggled over the last few seasons. I remember they were so compact, and Wigan was just able to pick them off. And Dale Taylor and Asgard had a fantastic game against them. Tom Eaves came on and stretched it back out, and I feel like this season again we've kind of seen them go in on themselves. Let's just, a bit like what Matt was talking about Rotherham. Let's just try not to get battered, and that's unfortunately you can't do that in this league.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think lots of fans don't like the wing-back system, and I think it depends very much on how you use it, because if you've got super attacking wing-backs, you've got two up top, you've got Flair number 10, it can feel like a very attacking system. But then and I think when you're an underdog, maybe especially once the wing-backs get penned in, it can feel a bit of a difficult watch at times, and it can start to feel more like a conservative formation. I have sympathy for Kevin Nolan. I question whether, I know the budget was low under John Brady. I don't think at this level, I don't think they've had an investment of cash since then. So it wouldn't surprise me if their budget was, if not the lowest, certainly one of the lowest. And I think that really limits what Northampton are able to attract, which kind of goes into your point, Charlie, about up top and whether they've been able to add the firepower, the quality that's needed. I think when the squad that won promotion in 2023 has kind of broken up a little bit over the years, when Hoskins maybe isn't the player he was, where Mitch Pinnock has gone, you think of even Leonard going back a bit further, a lot of that squad's sort of disintegrated, and I think that makes it difficult to rebuild, and that's where your recruitment's got to be 8, 9 out of 10 in order to do that. I don't think it has, and I think that's the challenge that the Northampton have with their rebuild. On Leyton Orient, we will pick up with Martin. Unfortunately, weren't quite able to get hold. We asked a few, but if Martin, if you'd like to drop in the comments some thoughts on Leyton Orient, the recent win that you'd got, we'd certainly welcome that. I think in terms of Orient, I still have a confidence that Richie Wellens is going to keep them up, but I think Don Ballard, the form that he's in this season, is going to be pretty big for them.
Yeah, I think Orient, they're starting to build a little bit of a late momentum now. I know it's been really, really tough, especially since Aaron Connolly dropped out of the side with his injury. I think they've really gone through a lot of problems, but you look at that home form, they've played 5 of the top 6 and they've not lost any of them at home. And I know some of them perhaps earlier in the season, but I think there is a fight in this Orient squad, but I always think they're a team that will just try and outscore you. And I think when Aaron Connolly comes back, they might concede 2 or 3, but I also think with Connolly and with Ballard in there as well, I think they're a team that may concede 2, but they'll go and score 3. And it's that kind of team. I think at the end of the season, when the board get together and debrief, I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned from the defense that's been put together. And it has struggled. Tommy Simpkin being there and then being recalled is obviously a bit of a loss for them. So they have had to go through it. And you look at the squad overhaul from last season to this season, and like they lost Jack Curry and then Jamie Donnelly and Charlie Kelman. There was such influential players, and Ethan Galbraith as well. Such influential players that they've lost in that team. So I'm not surprised there was a drop-off. It's a bigger drop-off than I thought, but maybe when the end of the season comes and we see the final table, you think, okay, maybe it's more of a respectable position rather than what they've had to endure over the last few months. I think they might be able to climb up.
Yeah, I think losing so many big players in the summer all in one go was difficult, because even then, even if the recruitment is good, you still have that challenge of trying to build a new team dynamic. And I think that in itself was quite difficult. And then the goalkeeper situation where they all seem to get injured, and it feels like a curse, like moving to Midsummer Murders, becoming Leyton Orient goalkeeper. They've had issues with the spine in holding midfield. I think they've had issues. I think Daniel Slor-Insky mentioned in the comments they've got Idris El-Mazouni to come back, as well as Aaron Connolly, who you spoke about. I think Idris El-Mazouni is a bit of an Orient legend. They sing he's Tunisian, so he's almost someone who coming back is going to make make an impact on things. So yeah, I think those two coming back is going to be a big difference. And also, I do have a lot of faith in Richie Wellens. I think he's earned that, and hopefully he can be part of the rebuild under David Gandler and co. Yeah, so I think it's been a difficult season for Leyton Orient, and hopefully back to better things for them next year. I'm going to ask you for some predictions, Charlie. I imagine you've been dreading this. In terms of relegation from League One, I think we'll agree Port Vale are in jeopardy. Northampton and Rotherham getting there as well, do you think?
I have less faith in Northampton than Rotherham. I mean, you look at those next 3 games that Matt was talking about, that's a real difficult one. If they go and get battered there and get anything less than 3 points over those 3 games, I think just naturally you're going to sink. So I would have to put Rotherham into that conversation. That final spot could be one of anybody, couldn't it?
Yeah. Because you could name me any team between Blackpool in 21st and Exeter in sort of lower mid-table. I think they're about 15th. And I could give you a reason. I could talk myself into thinking that they're going to stay up, which is probably why I find it hard to back Rotherham or Northampton to make the escape, because I think they've got a lot of work to do. I think it's going to be higher than 50 points, the mark, to stay up. I don't know if you'll agree with that.
Yeah, I think it'll be higher. I think it'll definitely be higher. I mean, you've still got three teams there within the mix. I think it's Wigan, Orient, and Doncaster have still got a game in hand on some of those around. So that's a massive one that they need to try and utilize. I think Orient will be fine. I think Doncaster will be fine. I've seen enough from them. Burton, they're just a scrappy team that I think they should also be fine. Exeter are one that I do worry might be the ones to drop below. But whether they're going to be relegation worthy, I'm not sure. But obviously, process of elimination there, I've just eliminated it to Wigan, Blackpool, or Exeter. So
could be so many teams are going to be fine. It's like, well, I've got to say Exeter.
Yeah, I don't know. Wigan with that game in hand is going to be very big for us. Obviously, we need to get something. We host Bradford on Saturday. That's going to be. I mean, I hope that they've used up all the shots on target against Port Vale. They've got nothing left. But we've got to go away to Vale and Northampton. We've got Rotherham at home. So they're 3 massive games where we've got to make sure we get at least, I'll say, 6 points from those 3 games just to be able to do it. So Blackpool, I massively worry about, but it's that home form at the bottom half. They've still got a lot of teams to play that they might be able to do something. And Exeter, again, going to Exeter's no easy feat. I know Lincoln went there and got a 1-0 win. Perhaps could have had more goals, but Exeter will grind in and make it difficult. So I don't know. It's just flip a coin for that final spot, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I was going on players, I would maybe say Doncaster, but I've got a lot of faith in Grant McCann. I mean, I think I agree with you on Leyton Orient. I think with those returnees, El Mizune and Conley, I think that's going to make a big difference for them. Yeah, I mean, I do worry a little bit about Exeter. I think Matt Taylor's a good appointment. I think he can galvanise people, but I do think that they could be in danger of slipping. I'm going to say Burton go down. That would probably be if you...
Again, though, Charlie Webster, how much will that impact it? You know, if he comes back, I mean, that's not to say he comes back in and lifts up the team completely. We don't know what kind of player he's going to be when he comes back and how fit he's going to be, but there are players coming back here, key players that are going to, I think, throw up a major spanner in a lot of these. And that's where I look maybe to a Wigan, I mean, Wigan have got Callum Wright to come back in the squad. He couldn't play against Plymouth, and I think he'd be our player of the season, Callum Wright. So yeah, there's a lot there. If I had to put something on it now, I think I would say Blackpool, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a fair shout, you know. How many points do you think is it going to take to stay up? Because I think it's going to be more than 50.
I liked Danny's 52 earlier. I think that probably could be right. I think maybe it will be just slightly more. There's just they all seem to play each other, the bottom half team. So it's very. I see Martin's put in there 53. He's put in the chat. I think it will be something like that, low 50s.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. I think 52 or 53 is probably a good chat, because I think a lot of these teams are going to put together some really good runs between now and the end of the season. That's definitely going to drive up the standards. So we'll see who falls foul of that. Charlie, thanks so much for your insight. It's been lovely to chat to you this evening. Thanks for your time as co-host as always. Thanks everyone for watching. You can get subscribed to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify, and you can also become an EFL Debate member and get my exclusive weekly conversations with Simon Lillibury for £3 a month. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again for another League One podcast next week.